Lore in short, what is this? Is this official? Oh, I haven't seen this. Let's see this, guys. Let's see this. The Arthas Menethil Lore. Is this the
Arthas
retcon lore?
Son of King Tyrannus Menethil II, the ruler of Lordaeron. As a promising young paladin, Arthas was trained in combat by Muradin Bronzebeard and learned the ways of the light under...
And this is why Arthas is such a formidable opponent. Who trained him in combat? A dwarf. Muradin Bronzebeard. This is why Arthas is so formidable in combat. He was trained by a dwarf, and it turns out that it took like 25 people to kill him. Back when he was relevant. See? That's right. Everybody always forgets the dwarfs, but no, there he is.
Uther the Lightbringer. Soon after his induction into the Knights of the Silver Hand, a plague gripped the Northlands of Lordaeron. I joined Arthas to help invest.
I take it that this is a video mostly intended for people to get hyped up about Wrath of the Lich King Classic. I mean, they even say as much Wrath of the Lich King Classic, of course.
Investigate and
I mean, it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, and I do believe that players who've never experienced Wrath of the Lich King, this is potentially the best time to try out World of Warcraft.
His disease that caused the dead to rise again. After fighting the infected undead, we encountered the necromancer Kel'Thuzad and discovered his plans to infect outlying villages under the orders of the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis. We set out to stop the demon before he could reach his next target, the city of Stratholme. But we arrived too late.
We were too late.
The citizens had already consumed poisoned grain that would doom them to rise into undeath. To stop the plague from spreading further, Arthas ordered his knights to purge the entire city. Uther and I were...
And this is what makes Arthas such an amazing character. Arthas did what needed to be done. He's like, yes, there's the light, there's what's right, there's what's wrong. What is right now is purging this fucking city. That's it. And they're like, oh, we can't do it. Everyone's literally an undead. City needs to be purged. It's that simple. Arthas did the right thing.
Horrified and refused to obey his cruel command. Those who remained loyal to Arthas joined him and began
the culling of
Stratholme. Arthas sought vengeance upon Mal'Ganis, but the demon slipped away to the frozen land of Northrend. While leading his forces in pursuit of Mal'Ganis, Arthas came upon his former mentor, Muradin, searching for a powerful blade called Frostmourne. When the sword was found, Muradin read its inscription.
There's actually a quest where you can experience this in Wrath of the Lich King. There's actually I mean, not experience this, you can see the memory, because obviously by then he was the Lich King. But like, you can see the memory of Arthas and Muradin in the cave where he found Frostmourne.
And warned the prince that the weapon was cursed. But Arthas believed that the blade would give him the power to save his people. When the weapon broke free, a shard of ice struck Muradin down. Heeding the call of Frostmourne, Arthas claimed the sword and left Muradin for dead. With Frostmourne in hand, Arthas confronted...
Betrayal is the fate that awaits all dwarves. We always get betrayed, every single time.
Mal'Ganis, who told him the voice he was now hearing was that of the Lich King, Ner'zhul. Obeying his new master, Arthas slew the Dreadlord and abandoned his troops as he pushed deeper into the frozen north. When Arthas returned to Lordaeron, the kingdom rejoiced at the homecoming of its beloved prince.
And he killed his
but
father.
That joy turned to ashes when Arthas entered the throne room and ran the accursed blade through his father's heart. Arthas Arthas scourged the land.
Arthas, what are you doing? Succeeding you, father.
In the name of the Lich King Ner'zhul. To reach the throne of his master, Arthas had to face Illidan's Stormrage. After a grueling battle, the victorious Arthas ascended to the frozen throne.
Of course, Arthas beat Illidan's Stormrage. Illidan's Stormrage is a fucking elf. Of course. You have a human that was trained by a dwarf. Imagine if there was an actual dwarf there. He would beat the shit out of Illidan so bad, we wouldn't have even had a Burning Crusade. You understand? We wouldn't have even have a Burning Crusade had there been a dwarf there instead of Arthas Menethil. Like, that was it. Illidan would have been done. Well, technically speaking, we probably would still have a Burning Crusade. It's not... Illidan's not the one behind the burning... Whatever. WoW's lore is complicated.
He drove his blade through the ice, releasing the spirit of Ner'zhul from its icy prison. The two beings merged into one and became the true Lich King. Should he rise again from the frozen north, all of Azeroth will face his wrath.
Relive the legend, September 26th. This is your last chance to experience Wrath of the Lich King. If you've never done so. If you like MMOs, and you kind of dig World of Warcraft, I would recommend Wrath of the Lich King. It is a good experience. It's just I've done that, been there, done that. In a way, I'm almost tempted to go back and play it, but at the same time, it'd mostly be for content than anything else, because like I don't really want to go back and relive that. I would like to relive what would have happened had Blizzard continued along the path of Wrath of the Lich King instead of like trying to babify World of Warcraft, only to now recomplexify World of Warcraft and Dragonflight. I want to try it a bit, got a 68 PAL already. I never really played WoW a lot. What do you mean 60? Wait, oh yes. No, wait. Isn't the cap? No, cap for vanilla is 60, cap for, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Never mind. The 10-year plus tanking vid sometimes I get from you will be useful again. I don't think so. I don't, yeah, dude. Hi, you will taint your memories in a kind of way. Yeah, you probably will, because like I said, one of the things that I always say whenever this comes up, give me a second. What the hell? Oh. Sorry, my wife is texting me. Okay. As I was saying, one of the things that I always say when it comes to talking about this is that Wrath of the Lich King was really cool because nobody knew what was happening. We were all exploring the game at the same time, and there wasn't as much degeneracy as there is now in World of Warcraft, right? What do I say by degeneracy? It's just like people playing ungodly amounts of hours. Like everybody had a... And by the way, I went full degen mode for Wrath of the Lich King. I actually, at the time, I was working at... I think it was at the large format digital printing company. I think I was working there. I took 1 week of vacation and I did nothing but play fucking Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, I'm complaining about the degeneracy. I was definitely a part of the problem. I was a fucking full degenerate for Wrath of the Lich King. It was disgusting. It was disgusting, okay? I spent 1 whole week doing nothing but sitting at home. I was still living with my parents, and I remember my parents would scold me every single day of that week, despite the fact that I'm like, I'm an adult, I'm working, but I'm still living with my parents, right? So my parents are like, oh, so you put a week of vacation in, right? And I'm like, yep. They're like, where are you going to go? Are you going to go somewhere or something? I'm like, nope. They're like, what do you mean? I'm going to stay home and I'm going to play video games. And they were like, what the fuck? And so every day they would go into my room and fucking hound me about, oh, you're such a disappointment. I mean, they wouldn't say you're such a disappointment, but you could tell they were pretty fucking disappointed that their son at age 20 something took 1 week vacation to just go fucking full degen on World of Warcraft. It was fan fucking tastic. Little did they know their son would eventually be earning a living from playing video games, but, they were not pretty happy about it. No, they were like, what the fuck, son? What is wrong with you? How can you just, like, sit here and fucking play video games all week? And I was like, yep, because it's fun, Dad, and I fucking loved it. Come to think of it, that was actually, I think, the year that I moved out. Because the video that I did, like one of my most popular videos, if we go Rurikhan tanking guide, most likely it's going to be the World of Warcraft one. Yep. One of my most popular videos that I did back then, right? It was 12 years ago, and this video is already in my house. This is at my house. This is before the house had almost anything. There's almost no furniture. It's just like a wall, right? There's just a wall here. There's nothing else. That's it. And there's 2 chairs, one for me, one for my wife, so that we can play World of Warcraft. She used to play World of Warcraft back then, man. Those are the fucking good days. But yeah, so like shortly after that was when I moved out. I bought a house, moved out. New and improved Wrath. Come get dicked by people selling boosts. Yep. What's stopping me from coming back, but will it ever be the same anyway? I liked your proposal on combining both timelines on the last Frozen Stadium. It's like, that was my idea for a story in World of Warcraft, and I really wanted to develop that more. The thing is, I'm not invested enough in the lore of the current lore of World of Warcraft, but interestingly enough, when I suggested that, Akalon actually brought up that my idea was actually pretty good because there were a lot of signs that could actually point to potentially Azeroth, like not the planet, but the Titan that is inside the planet Azeroth, that it could potentially be evil. So Azeroth would be evil, and she could end up being like the major villain at the end of Dragonflight, and that there were signs in the lore that could be interpreted that way, which would make my idea actually be pretty fucking cool. And the idea that I had, which for those of you that don't know, the idea that I was discussing with Akalon was like, well, what if you get to the end of Dragonflight and we lose for the first time? Because if you ever think about all of the World of Warcraft expansions, we always win in some way, shape, or form. We always win. We always defeat the big bad guy, and then the story continues. There's always a bigger bad guy. What if we actually fucking lost at the end of Dragonflight? We suffered an absolutely crushing defeat that could never be remedied in any way. Like, there was no chance whatsoever of us winning in our current state. And that's when Chromie comes in, because obviously the Dragonflights are involved and whatnot, right? So we have the Bronze Dragonflight, who have mastery over the timeline. Chromie comes in and teleports us back to the past, back to a Wrath of the Lich King, back to the end of Wrath of the Lich King, right as, we kill Arthas. And then there's some kind of MacGuffin, because there's always MacGuffins in World of Warcraft to think about it, but there are ways and ways of justifying it, right? But there's something about the events of Arthas, and there always needs to be a Lich King and all of this stuff that could potentially benefit us in the future, but we'd have to go back to the past. And so the next World of Warcraft expansion would actually offer a path forward from the people that are currently playing classic Wrath of the Lich King without them going to Cataclysm. Because Cataclysm, I don't care what people say, Cataclysm Classic makes no fucking sense whatsoever. It just makes no fucking sense. Right? So this way, this would offer a path forward both for retail and classic. However, it would have to be a different type of expansion than what people have come to expect from retail WoW. It would have to be an expansion where there's no looking for raid. It would have to be an expansion that would be a lot simplified in terms of its difficulty. I'm not saying being easier. I mean simplified as in, oh, we have the heroic, the mythic, the blah, blah, blah. No, it'd have to be a more classic level experience. I think maximum 2 difficulties. So like normal and heroic, and that's it. And normal would be like what the current heroic is, and heroic would be what the current mythic is. But basically the next expansion would be us kind of like going through the timeline again and fixing what could have been the most wrong things that happened in the following expansions. So fixing the problems that happened in Cataclysm in different ways, because you would have knowledge from the timeline, right? So they could like come up with alternative storylines for these expansions, which interestingly enough would actually lead to a reduced development time, because they would kind of like be reusing old zones just with new quest lines, which I don't think is wrong. But basically you'd be experiencing the events from a different perspective. Like, for instance, I think one of the things that Akalon brought up was like when people went to Mists of Pandaria, right? And a whole expansion took place in Mists of Pandaria. We could be doing stuff back in the Eastern Kingdoms in Kalimdor, right? And that would somehow influence what is happening in Pandaria. But basically the point is there would be so much stuff that we could do. And in one expansion, we could kind of like revisit all of the expansions up until Dragonflight. And then we would have the final confrontation with the thing that destroyed us on the expansion after that. With the thing that defeated us, we'd have the final confrontation, and then you could, like, have a brand new storyline there. Right? Wouldn't that be a cool thing? I think that'd be cool. Damn you, now I have a story concept for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Yeah. And it's like, if you think about it, you are basically reuniting the World of Warcraft player base if you do this, because you're presenting a path forward to both classic players and retail players that would hopefully work out for both of them. But you want to know what the biggest problem is with all of this thing, right? Then Bellar says something about a time skip. Yeah, there is a time skip, but that's a completely different thing altogether. But you want to know what is the biggest thing that will make sure that none of this would ever work. There is one thing that will ensure that none of this ever works. And that thing is that nobody at Blizzard actually plays World of Warcraft. And because nobody at Blizzard actually plays World of Warcraft, they wouldn't know how to simultaneously appeal to classic players and retail players. And that's the problem. That's why my idea would never, ever work. I'm not too fond of time travel because everything gets very confusing afterwards, though I would like to explore Primal Azeroth before the world got broken up into continents. Yeah, you see, the thing is, Arcaris, they already kind of like broke everything with the Warlords of Draenor storyline. They already kind of like shredded the World of Warcraft universe with that, so whatever. Make World of Warcraft great again. Yes. Yes. Morga. Instead of it being Maga, it's Morga. Morga. Because there's a W there instead of... Although you can kind of do Maga, make Azeroth great again, whatever. But it's like, you know, make WoW great again. Morga. Yeah, that's a cool video. The Arthas Menethil video is pretty cool.